Hi folks, my name is Mr. Kuchak and I am your art teacher. Before we begin, let me go over our class rules. We have 3 rules at Elk Lake. Be ready, be responsible, be respectful. We are ready in the art room when we come in, sit in our assigned seats, and get quiet so that we can learn about art. We are responsible in the art room when we follow directions and take care of our supplies, and we clean up any of our messes. We are respectful when we use kind words like please and thank you, and when we value other students' artwork. Supplies you will need for today's lesson. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to. Hi folks, today we are going to talk about the art element of space. There's a few different things that we can do to make our picture look like it has depth in it, and I'm going to show you some of these art tricks. So there's about 6 different ones, and then we're going to go ahead and we are going to use our art element picture that we've been working on, and we will use that to make another drawing in another box. And then we only have one art element left after that, and that would be color. So let me turn my camera and then I will show you some of the art tricks that we have. So I'm going to draw out 6 different boxes here so that I can show you the different tricks that we have. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. So with our boxes, we have a few different ways that we can get started showing that we have some depth in our picture. And one of them is going right off of the edge of the paper. So a lot of times what we'll do as artists, or when we have our paper set up, is we will try to stay right inside this box and we won't leave this box. So, thinking outside the box, making your shapes move. So let's say you were going to do something like a flower. And you start really big in the middle, and then if you go off of the paper, so if you keep having it go bigger and bigger, where you don't see the edges, where the edges of the flower disappear off there, then your flower is going to look really, really big. And the way that we add our depth in there, the way that we make it look like there's space behind there, is through small bits of background. We also have overlapping here where we have a flower petal on top of a flower petal. So that's one way that you can go through and make it look like there is something extra going on in your picture with space. And the second one, as I talked about here, is overlapping. So when we drew out our forms, we had our circle, our sphere, and then we drew a pyramid behind there. Now right here, because of the way our brains look, we look at that and we think, oh, that triangle's behind that circle. We don't think, oh, it's a shape that curves and fits in there perfectly like a puzzle piece. We always think that it's behind there. So by having one thing in front of the other, by having one object in front of the other, we make it look like there is depth in your picture and that it goes further back. Once again, it's an illusion, it's a trick. All of this is the same distance from us. I can touch this, this is all flat. But because of the way we draw it, we start having that illusion. Something else we can do is called drawing big. So, if I do a bird that is pretty big, do its beak, I get some tail feathers in there, I get some wings, maybe some claws, talons. So I have a really big bird. If I do a medium and a small size bird, which one looks closer to you? Well, it's the one with the most detail. So that's another trick that we have, is if we make the size bigger compared to the other things in the picture, that's going to look like it's a lot closer to you. So the size of it, drawing one thing larger than the other things that are related to it. Makes it look like it's closer. And once again, makes it look like it's depth. Makes it look like your picture goes really far back because that one's really far away. I'm going to turn my paper so that I can get to the next boxes. For our next one, this one is a value. So if we have two shapes exactly the same, and we go back to our art element of value, and we have one that's a little bit darker, maybe shaded in a little bit better. There we go. If we have one that's shaded in really, that has the greatest value, so the darkest darks, that one's going to look like it's closer to you than one that has no value, that has no shading, or that is shaded in really super light. Because as things move away from us, they turn to gray. So think of hills and mountains. If we were standing right next to that mountain, it would have all the color that we could see. But as we walk away from it, and as we walk away from it, as we walk away from it, it turns to gray. So the colors kind of gray away, they lose their intensity. So that's why this value works. Whatever's closest to you, you want the most value, the most color. So I had a teacher in college who would always say, you know, the darkest darks and the lightest lights you want in things that are close to you. The next thing that we have is placement. So with placement, that means if I have one flower there, one flower there, and one flower there, and they're all the same size, which one looks like it's closer to you? It's going to be that one. And that's because it's closer to the bottom of the paper. So whatever is closest to you on the paper, the placement of it is going to look like it's closer. And the last one is converging lines. And we would call this perspective. So what I have here is I put in what's called an eye level line. And what an eye level line does is it tells you, if something's below your eye level line, you're going to see the top of it. If something's above your eye level line, you're going to see the bottom of it. So if I have like this little remote, if we're looking at it from above, I see the top. But if we're looking at it from way underneath, I'm going to see the bottom. So the next thing I need after I have my eye level line is a point. So I always think of this as like an archery bullseye. That's what I'm aiming for any lines that go back in my picture. I'm going to hide this in a mountain. So I'm going to come up here really big. I'm going to do my first mountain, and then I'm going to do my next one, and I'm going to go around that side. I'll do another one and another one. So right here I have overlapping. I also have size. Next, I'm going to have my converging lines. So what I do with this is I pick a spot there, and I pick a spot there. Once I have my two spots, then these are like arrows. They need to go to that line. So I'm going to go out to that line, and go out to that line. And what that does then is it makes it look like it's going back. Now, what if we wanted to make these look like train tracks? Well, we can do this. We can make two other little lines there. And they're going to get smaller and smaller as they go back. And then we could have those going back like that. And that way it looks like you can walk back into your picture. So with our little recap here, we had converging lines, so lines that look like they're meeting all the way at the end. We have placement, we have value, we have size, so drawing something bigger, overlapping, and making sure that it goes off of the paper. So let me get my drawing, and I'll walk you through our next drawing on our art element paper, and then we'll get that all done today. Just give me 1 second here. this is our art element paper. So far we've done 1D, which is lines. We've done 2D, which is our shapes. We've also done value and form, which was our 3D. We added some texture into our picture with our texture drawing. And now we are ready for our space picture. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to put in my eye level line. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to draw a line across. That way I have my spot for my eye level line. Then I'm going to do a rainbow. And so that you can see this, I'm going to go over both of these so that you can see where I'm putting them. Some of the things that I might have to erase later on, I'll do in pencil, but for the most part, I'll try to draw in something a little bit darker so that you can see it. Next, I want to do my mountains. So there's different mountains that we can do. Here, I'm going to do a mountain, but I'm going to come from this side really tall, and I'm going to make sure that I avoid that tunnel. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to come down, and I'm going to avoid that tunnel. That way, I don't have any issues later on. Then, instead of going from the bottom and up, we want to do overlapping. So I'm going to walk halfway back up this mountain, and I'm going to go right off my paper, once again, making it bigger. So now we're using a couple different ways that we used space before. I'm going to add maybe some clouds in here, just to fill up that space a little bit. Then, I need to put a road going back here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do one line, and I'm going to come over on this side, and I'm going to do another line. That way I have two lines that are going to go back to there. Once again, remember, this is like an archery target. So I'm going to have these come way into there, and I'm going to have these come way into there. Those look pretty good. And then I'm going to do one here, and one here. Once I have those, I'm going to go from here, and I'm going to come up, and I'm going to come up. This way now we have, it looks like all of these lines. What we're going to do is we're going to make it look like it's almost like a tile floor, and that we can keep kind of going back, like almost like maybe it's a ruin or something like that. So when these go back, this line here has got to be bigger. This line back here's got to be smaller. So what I'd like to do first is I like to do my first line first, and I go right across, which gives me nice big tiles. Once again, it looks like it's going off the paper. So then my next one has to be smaller than that. So I'm going to shrink that, and then I'm going to shrink that one, and then I'm going to shrink that one, and then I'm going to shrink that one, so that it looks like, as you're looking at this, the tiles go smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, once we get to color, you'll be able to go back in and color it. The trick that you want, though, is so that you don't mess up your pattern. If you want it like a checkerboard pattern, what I normally do is I'll take a pencil and I'll just make a little dot in the ones that need to have the color or the value. So if that one's black, that one's white, that one's black, that one's white, that one's going to be black, and then it reverses. So that one's going to be white, this one would be black, white, black, white, that one would go off. So then we follow the same pattern. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Or white, black, white, black, white, black, black, white, black, white, black, white, white, black, white, black, white, black, black, white, black, white, black, white. So this way, when I color in, I know any spot that has the dot, that's the spot that I'm going to color in. I don't know if you can see that, but maybe that's a little bit better, where you can see where my dots are. So once you have that set up, when you go ahead and watch the next slide for our value, our art element of color, and that way then we can start working on bringing some life to this picture. All right. look for the next video. If you didn't have the other ones done, please get those done first so that this is our last box that we need to do. Thank you. Have a great day.